preparation of your trial as well as your final examination for November 2025. We'll be looking at Economics Paper 1, and this paper was written in the year 2021. Our main focus today will be on Section A, and Section A is a compulsory section in the Economics Paper 1. Section A will be looking at 1.1, 1.2, as well as 1.3 question. That basically all the questions that are part of Section A. Now, before we even look at Section A, I like to go through instruction and information and remind you in terms of what is important to take note before you even start writing your paper. It is very important, candidates, to understand that reading instruction and information for all your paper, it is fundamental. It is very, very important that you do it. If we're looking at the instruction and information, question 1 says, answer 4 question as follows in the answer book. In the answer book, you'll have section A, section B, as well as section C. Section A, it is a compulsory question. You have to answer everything in section A. Do not skip even one question that you will be provided in the section A. Section B, you need to answer 2 of the 3 questions. So what does that mean? You need to answer any of the 2 questions that you feel comfortable with, and then you're going to leave one question that you aren't strong in or you're not comfortable compared to the other 2 that you would have selected. And then we're looking at section C. Section C, you need to answer 1 of the 2 questions. So it is very important, candidates, to answer only 1. And the reason you need to answer only 1 is because if you decide to answer 2, you are going to be marked on only 1 of the 2. Therefore, do not waste your time. Time is very important during the exam. For that reason, please make sure that you do what you are required to do. And what you're required to do is that you ensure you answer the question as per instruction and information. And when we look at number 2 says answer only the required number of questions. Answer in excess of the required number will not be marked. So what does that mean? It means that you have to follow number 1. The instruction that you are provided in number 1, you need to follow. Right? Answer only the required number of questions. Any excess will not be marked. So what does that mean? It means that if you decide for section B to answer all the 3 questions, only 2 will be marked. And if you decide for section C to answer the 2 questions, only 1 will be marked. So please, candidates, ensure that you read the instruction and you read them properly to ensure that you do not waste your time answering something that is not required to you or responding to the question that is not required or you should not have attempted. Number 3, number the answer correctly according to the numbering system used in this question paper. So in the question paper, you will be provided the numbering instruction, and those numbering instruction is what you need to follow, candidates. It is very, very important again and again to ensure that you are using the numbering that you are provided. So what does that mean? If you're looking at section A on the compulsory question, you will be told that you have 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Under each and every question that you have, you will be told that for this question, it's 1.1.1. So you need to follow that. Say 1.1.1 and you select the correct answer. And then number 4, read the question carefully. It is very crucial that you read your question carefully before you answer. Because if you're going to rush through your question, you will not be able to ensure that you answer what you're supposed to be answering. So for that reason, make sure that you are reading the question properly and carefully. Why is that so? If you decide to rush through the question, you might think that question you've seen in the past, but this question, it's not what you've seen in the past. So to avoid things like that, ensure that you read question carefully. And then number 5, start each question on a new page, right? So in this exam, you have different questions, right? So if you're looking at question number 1, you need to ensure that your question number 1, once if it's finished halfway through the page, do not start question 2. Move to the next page. And the reason for doing that is because different people are marking your paper. So to make things easy, each and every question should be on their own designated section or paper or sheet. For that reason, it assists the markers to split the questions. That is, other marker will have question 1, others will have 2 and 3. So you don't want them to share your question in such a way that other section of your entire paper might not be marked, right? So please ensure that you start each question on a new page. And then when you look at number 6, leave 2 or 3 lines between sections of questions. So why is that important, and why you have to ensure that you're leaving lines? The reason it is important that you are leaving lines is because to make your work to look legible and clear, even for the benefit of those people who do not have the good handwriting, they are benefiting a lot when they're leaving 2 or 3 lines between subsections or questions. And also it make it easy for the marker to see which question are they on now. Are they on 1.1 or now we've moved to 1.2? So for that reason, candidates, please ensure that you follow the instruction. And then number 7, answer the question in full sentence and ensure that the format, content, and context of your response comply with cognitive requirements of the question. So make sure that each and every question that you respond to, it is in full. Do not use the WhatsApp jargon. Do not use what you normally write on WhatsApp status or what you write on Facebook or even on Instagram. Make sure that you are writing professionally and the way that you have been taught in class. And then use on a black or blue ink. Candidates, it is very, very important to ensure that you are using black or blue ink. And the reason for doing that is because the markers will be using different pen in order to be able for them to see the marking and to be able to ensure that all your marks are clear and they can calculate and combine all your mark. You need to be using the ink that is different from their ink. And black and blue ink will not be the one they will be using to mark your script. For that reason, please, candidates, again and again, only bring 2 types of pen. It's either the black or blue ink. During the times when I was a student, I would normally use blue ink. And the reason I would like to use blue ink, I felt like it was very bright and clear and it would accommodate my handwriting, as I do not have a good handwriting. And then number 9, you may use a non-programmable pocket calculator. So what does that mean when they say non-programmable pocket calculator? Non-programmable calculator, it's the calculator that doesn't store information. So what do I mean by saying it doesn't store information? It basically means that any information that you can use to copy during the exam, you are not going to be able on non-programmable calculators to store it. For that reason, it is advisable, again, candidate, that you do not find yourself in the situation where you go through this disciplinary hearing because you've decided to use programmable calculator, which is able to store the information which you can use to copy in the exam or to cheat in the exam room. And number 10, write neatly and legible. So what does that mean? It means that your handwriting, you must try by all means that a second person is able to read what you have wrote. And what do I mean by that? You need to ensure that everyone is able to read what you have wrote. And because during the marking process, no one will be staying next to you to ask you, what were you trying to say here? This is not clear. Can you repeat this? No one will have or no one will be next to you to ask you to explain what you wrote. For that reason, whatever that you are writing in your paper, write it in such a way that a second person is able to see what you are trying to say or able to understand what you wrote in the paper. So that takes us to the end of the 10 instruction and information that you have. It is very important that you do not make assumption during the exam to think that what you see in the instruction is what you've seen in the past. Make sure that you read it and you read it with understanding. Now that we're done with looking at the instruction and information, we are now going to move to question 1. So question 1, as I've already said, it is section A and it is a compulsory section. It is a compulsory section for that reason. All the questions, you need to ensure that you write them. Now, the first one that we're going to be looking at, it will be question number 1. Question number 1, it is made up of 30 marks and the candidate is expected to spend 20 minutes. If you have question like this in your September or your November paper, please candidates, ensure that you do not spend more than 3 minutes above 20 minutes because you need to reserve your time for other subsequent questions that will follow. Now let's just read 1.1. Various options are provided as possible answer for the following questions. Choose the answer and write only letter A to D next to the question number 1.1.1 to 1.1.8. And then they said in the answer book, e.g., 1.1.9D. So they are giving you an example in terms of how are you going to respond. So in the questions that will follow, you'll have 8 questions. How do you know you have 8 questions? Because you have 1.1.1 to 1.1.8, meaning to say you have a total of 8 questions. And then for all the questions, you say 1.1.1 and provide the alphabet for the answer that you're choosing or the letter for the answer that you're choosing. Candidates, it is very important to understand that you need to use letter A to D because you'll be provided A to D. Do not provide back the full name. Do not say this is this. Just the letter is it's shown here. Now let's just look at 1.1.1. Cycles that last 3 to 5 years and are caused by business adapting their inventory levels. So we have been provided all the things and then you need to select only one. So if you're looking at A, they say it is jungler, it is kitchen, it is Kasnet or Kasnit, and then D is at Congra diff. So now you need to state which one is the correct answer. So the cycles that last 2 to 3 years and are caused by business adapting their inventory level, it is called kitchen. So the correct answer will be B. And you'll say 1.1.1 and you say the answer is B. Right. So the correct answer is kitchen. So that is a cycle that lasts 2 to 3 years and is caused by business adapting their inventory levels. 1.1.3, a decrease in the value of currency due to market forces is known as, so a decrease, we are talking about a decrease here. And the value of currency due to the market forces is known as revaluation, devaluation, appreciation, and depreciation. Because here we're told about the currency and we're told that it's decreasing. So what do you understand about decrease of currents due to market forces? It is it likely to be any of the two. So since it is a decrease, then the correct answer it is depreciation, and depreciation is D. So the correct answer will be to say 1.1.2 and then say D. Do not bring back the whole depreciation. You're not going to bring back depreciation. You're just going to provide the letter back as you are required. Please, candidate, do not waste time trying to bring the full name. Do not express the examiner because the examiner or the marker will only be looking at D. And then 1.1.3, newly established firms that still need protection are called newly established firms that still need protection are called competitive, strategic, declining, infant. And just by you looking at newly established, think of what is new. Something that is new, something that is still a kid, maybe. What do you call a new person? You called infant, right? So now this is a newly established firm. So now the correct one will be infant, and then you will use the answer D. Because why? In newly established firms that still need protection are called infant industries, right? So that will be the correct answer. And then we're looking at 1.1.4, the continuous movement of factors of production, goods, and services among the participants in the economy is called leakages, injections, real flows, money flows. So the correct answer in this case, it is C. It is C because the continuous movement of factors of production, goods, and services amongst participants in the economy, it is called real flows. So that is a continuous movement of factors of production. It is called real flows. And the correct answer in this case will be C. Now, if we move to 1.1.5, service delivery to ensure the daily management of cities and towns is the responsibility of government, local, national, provincial, as well as central. So, what is the correct answer? The correct answer in this case, it is A, and it is local. Service delivery to ensure daily management of cities and towns is responsible of the local government. It is local because we're not looking at a provincial level and we're not looking at national level, but you're looking on the cities and towns. So the local government is responsible for the service delivery to ensure the daily management of the cities as well as the town. So it is local because we're looking on cities and town. It is not national because we're not looking at national level. Neither is provincial because we're not looking at provincial level. Maybe if it was service delivery of KZN, then we'll say we're looking at provincial level. Or if we are looking at service delivery of entire South Africa, then are you looking at national level? So now we're looking at cities and town. For that reason, local is the correct answer. Now we're going to look at 1.1.6. 1.1.6 says a nationwide government intervention to create employment using labor intensive method is known as. So we have A, Black Economic Empowerment Program, B, National Skills Development Strategy, C, Expanded Public Works Program, D, Joint Initiatives on Priority Skills Acquisition. And the correct answer in this case, it is C. And the reason it is says because the nationwide government intervention to create employment using labor intensive method is known as expanded public works program in what you normally call APWP. So you see people on the road collecting dustbin or they're cleaning the road and all of that. And that we normally call its EPW workers. So they are using labor intensive in order to perform the service. So that is a nationwide government intervention to create employment. So they create employment by obviously using EPW workers, which is expanded public works program. Then 1.1.7 issues related to human well-being over a period of time are monitored by using dash indicators. We have growth, which is A, B, social, C, economic, and D, communication. So the correct answer in this case, it is B. It is B because issues related to human well-being of a period of time are monitored using social indicators. So they are monitored through social indicators. 1.1.8, a track of land that forms a passageway allowing access from the area to another is called looking at a track of land, right? That forms a passageway allowing access from area to another is called corridor, which is A. It is not special economic zone. It is not a special development initiative. It is not also an industrial development zone. So the correct answer will be A, which is corridor. Now let's just look to what we have next. We are now looking at 1.2. Choose a description from column B that matches the item in column A. Write only the letter A to I next to the question 1.2.1 to 1.2.2 in the answer book. So this is now column A versus column B. So in column B, you are given the explanation. In column A, you are given the name. So basically, B, they're explaining what you have in A. However, not everything that you have in B will be addressed by column A. Right. So it is very important to understand that. That's number one. And number two, here, candidates, you need to say 1.2.1 A, B, C, or D. Whatever that is the correct answer. Do not bring back the entire explanation because the markers will only be looking at whether you've selected A correctly, B correctly, C correctly, D correctly, or E correctly. So now what I would do if I were to write this paper, in my answer book, I'll have 1.2.1 to 1.2.8. That means I will have 8 questions. Then I will read in column B and see what I have in column B. Then for everything that matches 1.2.1, I'll select that letter and bring it to any of what I've wrote here, which is 1.2.1 to 1.2.8. So what do I mean by that? Since in my answer book, I will have 1.2.1 up until 1.2.8. If I read A and I find out that A matches, 1.2.1 matches A, then I'll bring this A to 1.2.1. Right. Now let's just look and how then we will be matching this. So now if we look, 1.2.1, embargo. What is an embargo? So you have all the names that are here. You need to read each and everything that you have here. And I want you, when you're reading, please make sure that whatever that you have read, you understand is sitting in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or H, so that you do not keep on rereading. You need to understand what is where, right? So now once you understand that, it is easy for you to keep on plugging, right? So now 1.2.1, it is embargo. So what is an embargo? An embargo, it is a complete ban imposed on the importing of goods from a particular country. So it means that certain country will not be able to do what? To import their products to South Africa. So that is what we called embargo. So now what are we looking for? You need to find anything that has a ban or importing. All right. So now if you're looking at A, so if you look at A, there's nothing that talk about import, because they say when a country engage in foreign trade and produce a given goods at a lower input cost than other countries. So when you're looking at A, you're like, okay, I can't see anything that talk about ban of import, right? Or import or importing, right? That means A is not the correct answer, because you know that embargo, it is a ban on importing of goods from the particular country. So now you then say, okay, for 1.2.1, A is not the correct answer. Then you move to B. If you look at B, B says a complete ban on the importing of goods from particular country. So now you see a ban and you see importing. Now you said, okay, then the correct answer for 1.2.1, it is a B. It is B because you have realized that B, it says, it talks about a complete ban, right? Imposed on importing of goods and services from a particular country, right? So now we know that the correct answer for here, it is A. A, right? I mean, it is B. Apologies, it is B. So now you know the answer, it is B. Now then said, okay, now you need to move to the next one. So 1.2.2, length of the business cycle. Length of the business cycle. So length of the business cycle, it measures from the peak, right, to peak, or from through to through, right? So the length of the business cycle, it looks from the lower to lower, or the higher to higher, which is like peak to peak or through to through, right? It's measured from peak to peak or through to through, right? Now, what you're going to be looking at now, so you're looking at anything that has peak to peak or through to through, or anything that has peak or through, right? So now we have to read again. We have read A and we've read B. Now we're looking from C downward. So when you're looking at C, it says measured from peak to peak or through to through. Now as you see peak and as you see through, now you're like, okay, you got the answer for 1.2.2. Now you're going to say the correct answer in this case, it is C. All right. Now you've selected B and C. Meaning to say, now that you have selected B and C, now you're not going to select B and C again because you've already selected. Now we're going to move to 1.2.3. 1.2.3, comparative advantage. What is a comparative advantage? A comparative advantage is when a country engages in foreign trade and produces a given good at a lower input cost than other countries, right? It means that a particular country can produce certain good at a cost that is lower compared to other countries, right? Now, what you're going to be looking at, you're going to be looking at production or produce. Now, you've looked at B and C, since you're not gonna touch it, now let's us look at A again and see what we have. Do you have anything that talks about produce? Right? If we look, yes, there is produce. Now let us read in full and see whether it is the correct answer for 1.2.3. When a country engages in a foreign trade and produce a given good or at a lower input cost than other countries. So now this looks like a correct answer for 1.2.3 because it talks about each that particular country being able to engage in foreign trade and produce a given good at a lower input cost than other countries. So that means their cost of production for that particular good is lower than any other country, then it put them at a competitive advantage. Therefore, the correct answer that we'll have here, it will be A. Now we've selected, in this case, we've selected A, we've selected B, and we've selected C. So now the only part that we are left with, it is a D to E. Now when we're reading, our main focus or our main eye will be looking at D to I. Now let us see what we have. 1.2.4, marginally propensity to save. What is a marginal propensity to save? It is the proportion of income that households do not consume. So that portion of income from your mother's salary that has not been used to buy food or to pay for your school fees or whatever other services or goods that are needed for the household, that part, it is the marginal propensity to save. Right. So now what we're going to be looking for now, we're going to be looking at household income, right? So as soon as you see anything that talks about household income, then you stop because that means you need to read thorough for that part. Why you need to read thorough? Because it might be the correct answer for 1.2.4. Now we're going to be starting from D, and the reason we're starting from D is because we have already selected A, B, and C. Now our main focus starts from D. If you look at D, the proportion of income that household do not consume. The proportion of income that household do not consume. That is the correct answer, candidate. So 1.2.4, the correct answer is D, which is marginal propensity to save. Then 1.2.5, it is non-rivalry. So what is non-rivalry? Non-rivalry, it is consumption by one person does not reduce the consumption by another person. So non-rivalry simply means that if you use the street light, that street light that you have used, it will not reduce the street light that is available for the next person to use. So it is consumption by one person does not reduce the consumption by another person, right? So if you go on the road, the next person will be able to use that road the same way as you've used it when you passed that section. All right. Now, what we're going to be looking for, candidates. So now what you're going to be looking for, the keyword will be consumption. So we're going to be looking for consumption and see what we find. Anything that had consumption or consuming, whatever that talks about consumption or consuming, we're going to wait and read in full and see whether it is not linked to non-rivalry. Now, when you're looking at E, it says consumption by one person does not reduce consumption by another person. Then that is the correct answer because the key word that we said we're going to look at, it is consumption. And now it does say in full, consumption of one person does not reduce the consumption by another person, right? So what does that mean? It means if I decide to use the street lights, you are going to be able to use the street lights, and there will be no reduction in terms of how much of light you're going to get. So it is non-rivalry. Rivalry. Then we are going to say the correct answer for 1.2.5. It is E. And I forgot to put here for 1.2.4, which we're supposed to put D. Then we are moving to 1.2.6. 1.2.6, it is a worldly tax. So what is a worldly tax in your own understanding? All right. What would you say it's a worldly tax? So a worldly tax, it is a tax that is normally levied on properties based on their value. So the higher the value of the property that you have, it means you will be taxed more than the other person, right? So if I have a property value that is 1.2, I will be taxed probable after the exemption of 300, 400. But someone that has a property value that is 1.8 or even more might be taxed something like 750 or more. Right? So it is based on the value of property or the market value of the property. So it is levied based on how wealthy you are. The more wealthy you are, the more tax you are going to pay. So now, what are we going to look? So the keyword will be market value. So we're going to look for anything that has market value and stop and read it. So already we have selected A, we've selected B, we've selected C, D, as well as E. So in this case, candidates, we are now left with few things to choose from. So if you are left with few things to choose from, what does it mean? It helps you now because you have went through a lot. You are left with only 4. So what are we looking for? We're looking for market value. If you're looking at F, there's nothing that talks about market value. If you're looking at G, there's nothing talking about market value. And if you're looking at H, there's nothing also that talks about market value. However, apologies, if you're looking at H, there is market value, right? Now let us read in full. Levied on properties according to their market value. So that is correct. So if you're looking at 1.2.6, it says, well, the text, it is levied on properties according to their market value. So now the correct answer for this case, it will be H. So you're going to come here and say H. H. The correct answer in this case will be H. Now we have used this one, and then we are left with F, G, and I to look for. 1.2.7 Industrial development. In your own weight, what is an industrial development? If someone talks about industrial development, what comes into your mind? So, an industrial development, it is an extensive increase in organized economic activity to manufacture, mine, farm, and deliver services. So, it is an extensive increase in organized economic activity, right? So, now what will be our main or the keyword to look at this? Check for economic activity. So, if you see anything that has economic activities, because that is basically industrial development. If you see the keyword will be economic activity. If you see anything that talk about economic activity, then we'll stop and read in full. The first one is talk about economic goods. So we're looking at activities, not goods. Therefore, F is not the correct answer. If we're looking at G, measured in terms of per capita, then there's no economic. If you're looking at this one, we've already selected. Now we are left with the last one, which is I. It says extensive increase in organized economic activity to manufacture, mine, farm, and deliver services. So this is the correct answer, candidate. So the correct answer that has the economic activity for 1.2.7, it is I. So the correct answer in this case will be I. It is I because this is an extensive increase in organized economic activity to manufacture, mine, farm, and deliver services. Now we are looking at our last question, which is 1.2.8, and it talks about services. So if someone says or talks about services, what comes into your mind? So services, um, it's economic goods which do not take a tangible or storable form, right? So what does it mean? If you come to my place and I'm saying I'm gonna teach you economics, I am providing you a service because me teaching you, I don't store teaching you at any place, right? There's no storage for that. So since there is no storage for that, then that means it is an economic activity. I mean, it doesn't have tangible storage form because it's not stored anywhere. So it is an economic goods which do not take tangible or storage form. So now let's look for tangible. Anything that you see that has tangible, then we're going to read it in full. If you look at what we left with, it's F, G, and I. So we're going to start with F, economic goods which do not take a tangible or storage form. It is F because, as I've already said, there's no tangible or storage form for services. So then the correct answer will be F. Then that takes us to the end of 1.2. Now we're going to look at 1.3, and 1.3 it's the last question for section A. So that will take us to the end of the video as soon as we are done with 1.3, and section B will be done on the separate videos. Now let's just see what we have. So now if you're looking at 1.3, 1.3 says give one term for each of the following description. Write only the term next to the question number 1.3.1 to 1.3.6. So that means we have we have a total of 6 question in 1.3. In the answer book, abbreviations, acronyms, and examples will not be accepted. It is very important that you understand that if you decide to use abbreviation or acronyms or even example, that will not be marked. So make sure that the term that you are using, it is the correct term. It is not abbreviated. It is not an acronym or it is not an example, but it is a term that is required. So now we're going to read together and we need to understand that for this question, you need to recall the term, and that is what you would have learned in class. So, since I'm assisting you with the papers, my assumption is that you have already learned in class. So, since you have learned in class, whatever that you have learned at this point now, our focus is to remind ourselves what each and every certain thing relate to. All right. Now, 1.3.1, the curve that indicates the relationship between the unemployment rate and the inflation rate. What is the curve? We are talking about the curve. Now you need to remember all the curves that you've learned in class, but more importantly, the ones that show the relationship between the unemployment rate as well as the inflation rate. Candidates, you will remember this is the most important curve. It even comes to most of your essay questions, and that is what we call Phillips curve. So now, how are you going to respond to this? So the correct answer in this case will be Phillips curve. So you write only the term. And it is very important that you understand you are writing only the term. So you write just the term. Right? You say Phillips. Right. So now the curve, because you're told it's a curve, so you're just providing them the name. It's Phillips curve. Now we're gonna look at 1.3.2, an economy that exclude foreign sector. So what is the economy? Which economy that exclude foreign sector? It's an economy that exclude foreign sector. So the foreign sector is not part of that economy. It is a closed economy because it is only taking into account things that are happening within South Africa. And what you're going to have to write here, you're just going to say closed. So the term that the examiner will be looking for, it is closed. All right, so you say closed. And then when you move down, 1.2.3 is strategies to strengthen the institutional capacity to deliver services that facilitate economic and social development. So it is a strategy that strengthens the institutional capacity to deliver services that facilitate economic and social development. All right. So what is the term? So the correct term for 1.3.3, it is integrated manufacturing strategy. So it is a strategy that strengthens the capacity to deliver services that facilitate economic as well as social development. So it is what we call integrated manufacturing strategy. So now, because this is made up of three terms, you need to bring all that. So how are you going to respond to this? You'd say it is integrated. It is integrated manufacturing strategy. So that would be the correct answer. It is an integrated manufacturing strategy. So it is a strategy to strengthen the institutional capacity to deliver services that facilitate economic and social development. But what is important for you to understand, candidates, as well here, it is important for you to also understand that for this case, right, you can say integrated manufacturing because you are asked what is the strategy and still get the mark for that. Then when you look at 1.3.4, it says a regional development initiative that attracts infrastructure and business investment to neglected areas. It is a regional development initiatives that attracts infrastructure and the businesses or business investment to neglected areas. So what is important here is the neglected areas. So that is what we call spatial development initiative. And what you're going to say here, you're going to write in full spatial development initiatives. So that I'm going to do it for you here, and I will call it spatial. So that's what you're going to do in the exam. You're just going to bring back the name spatial development initiatives. And then 1.3.5, it says a tariff based on fixed amount per unit, weight, or size that is levied on imported good. So 1.3.5 says a tariff based on fixed amount per unit, weight, or size that is levied on imported goods. What do you call that tariff? It is a specific tariff. So it is specific. So in this case, you will say specific. The correct answer in this case will be specific tariff or just specific because already has already been said here that you are looking at what we call a tariff. So you're going to say it is a specific tariff. Then 1.3.6, a business cycle approach based on forces inside the market system. What are the business cycle approach based on forces inside the market system? So this one, you can use two names. The first one is indigenous, and you can use Keynesian. You can use either Keynesian or endogenous. So it is a business cycle approach based on forces inside the market system. The forces in this case are inside the market system. So now you can use any of the two, and I'll write, and then you see what you would have used. So first one, you would have said it is indigenous. Alternatively, you can use K. Any of the two, you'll be marked correctly. So that takes us to the end of section A. And section A was the main focus for us in this video. Please follow me for more videos, and on the next part, we're going to be looking at the next section. And the section that you'll be looking for that will come next will be our section B. Thank you so much, candidates, for listening up until this far. I wish you all the best as you are preparing for your trial exam, as well as the final exam that you'll be writing in December. Thank you and all the best.